everybody, and welcome to another episode of Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, just hours away, just over 24 hours away from the Bills' Thursday night matchup against the divisional rival Miami Dolphins. Thursday night at 8:15 p.m., an Amazon-only game for those following along at home. Make sure you download the app and set a reminder if you wouldn't like to continue on with that app. Maybe a quick deletion or unsubscription, whatever you prefer. I know it's difficult nowadays, AJ, when you're a sports fan. You really have to have subscriptions to all these different streaming services. Football, I think it's like 3 or 4. Baseball, it's right around the same. It's really getting difficult for the consumer out there.
Yeah, it is. Peacock, was on for Friday's game between the Packers and Eagles. You have, who knows, they'll probably input some Netflix live games down the line here, Hulu. They'll probably use it all. So there's going to be a lot of streaming services competing. I think you're going to see cable continue to die. The YouTube TVs and all the streaming services continue to rise. And it's an ever-changing industry. What we do, and along with TV and television the last decade, there's been a lot of changing things. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of unfolds. But yeah, Bills Dolphins Thursday night. Like you said, only 24 hours away around there. So really looking forward to a game. Those games between the Bills and Dolphins are always fun.
Both teams coming off victories in week 1. Both teams having to come back to win their opening day games. The Dolphins down midway through the third quarter. The Bills late in that first half before they stormed out of the gate in the second half. So both teams kind of a slow start in week 1, able to absorb that and work their way to the victory. And now they enter week 2 squaring off with one another. You have your game preview up on the dailynewsonline.com. Really went in depth with everything that Bills fans need to know entering the game, the odds, the spread, the game day weather, broadcast. Why don't you take us through that and some of the top storylines as well entering this weekend's game between the Bills and Dolphins?
Yeah, so I kind of started it, the article, the column, whatever you want to call it, with kind of an overview of how last year I ended with Miami, and they had crazy odds to win the division going into the last 5 games of the year, a 3-game lead, and they kind of choked it away. The Will Levis Titans game really comes to mind. That's where everything kind of changed, watching that game and watching the Dolphins blow that to Tennessee on their home turf. It was pretty astonishing and really felt like, hey, if the Bills can get hot at the right time here and do it, they can win the division again, and they did. So kind of started off there, and then now turning the page, like you mentioned, a slow but sure win for both teams. I think both teams started slow, but along the way they got better and found wins in week 1. So that was obviously important for both teams. And in New England, also in the division, started week 1 with a win, upsetting the Bengals. So that's kind of a weird
everybody
start.
But the Jets.
Everybody but the Jets. I'm still going to stick to my word. I said roast me about my tweet. I'm still going to stick to my gut here. I still think the Jets will be better down the line. Going into San Fran week 1 with a whole new, not coaching staff, but a lot of new players, and Rodgers playing his first game in over a year. There's going to be some kinks we need to be weeded out there. So I think the Jets will be okay, but we'll see. Maybe the Dolphins will be the scarier team. Bills are plus 2.5. So Dolphins minus 2.5 favorites. I don't know how often that's happened in the last 4 or 5 years, but the Dolphins are favorites at home. The weather around 80 degrees near kickoff, really humid. Winds will be light, variable. 60% chance of showers earlier in the evening, but as the night goes on, the showers might, dissipate. I'm hoping for no delay. That's definitely something I've hoped for, is no delay. And then just some top storylines. You already mentioned the Amazon Prime. The top storylines, and then you can probably go over the injury report if you'd like. The top storyline for me is Josh Allen owning the Dolphins. 11-2 in his career against Miami. One of those coming in the playoffs, which is the most wins he has against any NFL franchise. So that 11 number, the most wins he's ever had against any NFL franchise in his career so far. And then throughout his career in those 13 games, he's had 41 total touchdowns to just 13 turnovers. Was named AFC Player of the Week 5 separate occasions, and has also thrown for 2+ touchdowns in every single game, which is the longest streak by a quarterback against a single opponent in NFL history. So another big day in Allen could be in store dealing with that left hand injury. He is good to go, but maybe that'll change some things. The Taron Johnson injury, I think, is another top storyline going into this one. You lose a Taron Johnson with that forearm early in week 1. I think like the 4th or 5th snap on defense, and Cam Lewis comes in and replaces him. Jamarcus Ingram stepped in some dime packages late in the game when the Cardinals were in obvious passing situation. So will the Bills be able to replicate what they did against Arizona and really, count on Cam Lewis, the UB product, to really come through and be that Swiss Army knife that he's been for them, a guy that plays all around the field, finished with 7 solo tackles last week. And I thought he played well, both in coverage and in run support. So will they be able to just replace that? And then finally, can the sack production remain consistent? It was a struggle in the first half. I thought Kyler Murray had his way, right? He was running around all over the place, able to move the chains multiple times, use his athletic ability to really keep those plays alive and keep that Cardinals offense moving. 17 points in that first half. Halftime adjustments by Bobby Babbage and Sean McDermott's defense at half, and they come out, and the Bills only allow 3 points in terms of the defense. They allow that special teams kickoff return, but only 3 points allowed in that second half. And that was a big, largely in part to Greg Rousseau, with finishing with 3 sacks, the AFC Defensive Player of the Week this week, and also Von Miller, who I thought flashed multiple times throughout the game and also recorded his first sack, his first since 2022. So will the Bills be able to get after a Tua Tagovailoa who, presents a different problem than Murray? Tagovailoa is the guy that throws the ball fast and allows his playmakers to really make those game-changing plays. So will this Bills offense be able to take away the first read, the secondary, and will the pass rush be able to get home and get to Tua? So that's going to be the key for this pass rush. And I think if the Bills defensive line can rise to the occasion, it definitely bodes well for what they can do against this Dolphins team, and looking forward to this matchup.
You mentioned cornerback Taron Johnson out for this game with the forearm injury. The team has yet to declare a timeline in terms of his return. They still could put him on injured reserve all the way up until when the team releases inactives an hour and a half before Thursday's game. So that could be an upcoming move for Bills fans to keep their eye on, whether or not the Bills place Taron Johnson on the injured reserve this week. That could tell you a lot in terms of when to expect him back on the field. Also, DeJuan Smoot out for this game, second consecutive game that Smoot will miss with a toe injury. Javon Solomon in danger of missing his second consecutive game with an oblique injury. He is doubtful for this game. Josh Allen injured his hand during the Bills' win over the Cardinals, was wearing a glove throughout the week, had his fingers buddy taped together, the third and the fourth finger taped together, but it does appear as if he's set to play without any inhibitions in terms of that left hand. He practiced throughout the week. He, like I said, was wearing that glove. It remains to be seen whether or not he'll wear that glove and tape his fingers during the game, but I don't expect Allen to be impacted at all this upcoming week against the Miami Dolphins, although we may see the Bills scale back his running. He was a contributor in the running game last week. Maybe they scale that back. Maybe they give Ray Davis some more touches this week. Only 6 snaps for Davis this past week. Maybe we see an increase in that this upcoming week. Running back Ty Johnson with a knee injury. Tight end Quentin Morris with a shoulder injury. And QB Mitchell Trubisky also dealing with that knee injury. All 3 of those players scheduled to suit up on Thursday. For the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert, the running back, already declared out with a chest injury. Devon Achane with an ankle injury, questionable in this one. He did practice without any limitations on Wednesday, I believe it was, but we'll see if Achane will suit up. They also have Josh Wilson. Is that the name?
Sorry, Jeff Wilson, running back.
Jeff Wilson, running back, So if Achan's limited and with Mostert out, we'll likely see a little bit more of Jeff Wilson this week against the Bills. Elsewhere, the Dolphins are a little bit in better injury shape than they were this offseason. You have the pass rusher Jalen Phillips coming off an Achilles injury. He had a sack in week 1, looked pretty good. The offensive lineman Liam Eichenberg also will play in this game. So that's the injury report heading into this one. And like you mentioned before, the Bills already without Matt Milano, now without Taron Johnson. You have Dorian Williams, who's coming off a solid performance against the Arizona Cardinals, along with Cam Lewis, who performed well against Arizona. But now they're going to have to do it 2 weeks in a row and against a much more talented offense in the Miami Dolphins and a team with incredible team speed. And you hinted at it toward the end of your introduction. And I'm just going to lead it off with one of my 5 takes from my story posted to the dailynewsonline.com later tonight. The Bills secondary needs to defend well early in the down, allow the pass rush to get involved. You saw what Greg Rousseau can do in terms of his impact on the game. If the Bills secondary and the linebackers are able, like I said, to defend early in the down, give the pass rush an opportunity, perhaps work Tua off his first read and have him hold on to the ball for 3+ seconds, that could really change this game and really turn the tide for the Bills.
Yeah, I think along those lines as well. I think the Bills defensive line getting their hands up. You've seen Ajay Cybulski do it several times, right? Tua is a smaller quarterback, so it may be sometimes hard to see over the big offensive lineman in front of them. And I think the Bills could provide some, they got a Greg Rousseau who, already showcased what he can do as a pass rusher and in run support this year. I mean, I put it out there after the first couple sacks. I'm like, this is kind of the guy we've all been waiting for, right, since the 2021 season. It's just been, like John Roberts says, Rousseau played nice and had 3 sacks. It just feels like he is the guy that the Bills have been waiting for a long, long time, and we've been waiting for this kind of uptrend in his career, and he's really just proving it. So I think with him, Ajay Cybulski, Von Miller, who looked way better than last year already, right? You could just see in his mentality going into the week. You could tell just his confidence. He spoke with confidence last year. He always will. But I feel like this year it's kind of all connecting the physical part of the game, the mental part of the game. And you're seeing him, already with the sack this year. So one step closer to those incentives where he took that pay cut in the offseason to help the Bills spend a little bit more money. I think this defensive line, it's going to be very important. Ed Oliver, Declan Jones, get some more out of them. John Roberts says in the comments here, Declan Jones blocked the pass last week, which goes back to my original point about getting those hands up in the air. So overall, I think this defensive line needs to show up. And again, like you mentioned, Alex, this team likes to get the ball out on its first read. Like Tua likes to drop back. They love those crossers over the middle of the field. That's what they do. I would love to see the Bills kind of try to take away the middle of the field, force Tua to try and throw outside the numbers. I know it's a tall task when you have a Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill on the boundary, but if the Bills can do that, force Tua to get through his multiple reads and prevent Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle from abusing the middle of the field, I think this Bills defensive line can kind of eat against this Dolphins offensive line. And I also think that the Bills secondary could have some success. Now, it could go backwards and Tua can, absolutely destroy the Bills in terms of getting rid of the ball and letting Tyreek and Jalen Waddle do their thing. But the Bills have had success against Tua in the past, and hopefully that can continue tomorrow night.
Yeah, I was surprised with Von Miller, particularly his snap count. 48% of the snaps against the Arizona Cardinals. He comes away with that sack, pushing the offensive lineman back into Kyler Murray, causing him to lose his footing. And Miller just speaking with confidence throughout the week and even in the post game. And we saw it throughout the offseason and in training camp, and a lot of talk surrounding his ability to impact the game. And seeing it in week 1, certainly a positive sign for this group. And didn't see a lot from Ajay Cybulski in that game, but like you said, this could be a big week for him, getting those hands up, batting those balls down, and wreaking havoc at or along the defensive line. I also think you need some increase in production from Ed Oliver. A huge season last year. Didn't hear much from him in week 1, but perhaps this week. The guard position really a weakness for the Miami Dolphins. This could be a week where you see, as you mentioned, Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver really get a lot of penetration and, as I said before, wreak havoc along that defensive line. So that's one of the matchups to watch this week along the defensive line. And really, the Bills' pass rush and pass coverage working together to produce some nightmarish situations for Tua Tagovailoa. But if you look at Tua and his ability to get the ball out early, that just allows those speedy wide receivers, Hill and Waddle, to accumulate that yards after the catch, which the Bills have been in search of out of their wide receivers the past several years. And Miami's wide receivers are as good as any in the league in their ability to do that. Both of these guys caught 50-plus yard passes last week, an 80-yard touchdown for Tyreek Hill, a 63-yard reception for Jalen Waddle. So really just big plays waiting to happen. And the Bills have done a good job against both of these guys in the past. Neither player, as far as my research, they have gone over 100 yards against the Bills, at least in the regular season. So, like I said, the Bills have done really a good job against both of these speedy receivers, and they're going to need that secret sauce this week as they try to slow down the Dolphins and improve to 2-0.
Yeah, and the Bills' defense needs to approach, obviously, Tua differently. Tua and Kyler Murray are way different type of quarterback, style of quarterback, all of it, really. They're totally, like, legit totally different. But I think with the Bills this week, you're going to have – you liked last week, right? The edge rushers kind of – sometimes they tried to hold their, passing lanes, right, and keep Kyler Murray in the pocket, but he's just so fast that he can, get around those guys and outrun them. He was outrunning Greg Rousseau, outrunning Von Miller, outrunning really any defensive end they put out there. And then you look at with Tua, going back to the Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver point, I think that interior pass rush is going to be huge, because if you force that pocket where Tua cannot step up and make a correct throw or the right read, then it forces him to get outside the pocket. Now you're not chasing down a Kyler Murray, right? You're chasing down a Tua Tagovailoa if you get him out in space running. So I think the more you can get Tua off his, outside of his comfort zone, maybe throwing on the run a little bit, making him run outside the pocket, because you don't really need to contain this guy, this Bills pass rush. You're not going to have to contain Tua. That's not going to be the focal point. I think it's going to be rushing up the middle.
And in my 5 takes, my research was Tyreek Hill, no 100-yard game against the Bills. Jalen Waddle does indeed have 2 during the 2022 season, it appears. Waddle, 2 100-yard games. So a little bit more production from Waddle in terms of explosive performances against the Bills than Tyreek Hill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matchups against the Bills for Tyreek Hill between the Chiefs and the Dolphins. No 100-yard games. So whatever the Bills defense has done against him has been working historically.
Yeah, I mean, you look what Christian Benford did last week. So there's a chart on Twitter from J.R. Fortgang. He's a football lover, works with PFF, and he put a chart together with 2024 Week 1 cornerback separation prevented and target rate against. So if you look at the chart, the better you are, the top right, the better you're off. And Christian Benford is alone by himself in the top right of this chart with raw PFF separation prevented combined with the target rate against. So not only was he not targeted a lot, right, against Arizona, but he also, when he was targeted, he was not allowing a lot of separation. So I think with Christian Benford, I said it all offseason, I think that's the quarterback 1 on this team. And through a week, him standing out on this chart is pretty impressive. There's everyone in the league there. He's around, Sauce Gardner is in the top right, which is a good sign for the Jets. Rasul Douglas is also kind of in that middle of the pack where he's, playing good football right around with Trent McDuffie. So these corners in Douglas and Benford only allowed 1 catch for 4 yards. I know it's a team thing and they run a lot of zone, but you're looking at a guy that a secondary that went against a really good pass catching unit with Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, and I think they did a good job. Obviously, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are different beasts, but I think Benford played really well, and I think he showed why he could be the the cornerback 1 for this team.
Yeah, they allowed just a 1 reception, targeted just 3 times. So the Cardinals really going away from the Bills' top cornerback duo. A great start for both of those two. So before we get too deep into this podcast, we'd like to once again thank our sponsor, Forefathers Organics in Dansville, where their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. On the defensive side of the ball for the Dolphins, AJ, All-Pro Jordan Poyer, familiar face for Bills fans, 7 seasons with the Bills, one of them ending with All-Pro honors in the 2021 campaign. Poyer now looking to be a contributing member of this Dolphins secondary. An up-and-down performance in Week 1. We'll see what he has to offer in Week 2, playing alongside one of the league's top safeties in Javon Holland, who came up with that big play to punch it out of Travis Etienne's hands and really turn the tide for the Dolphins in their Week 1 win. But Poyer entering this game, going to shake hands and greet his teammates, or former teammates, I should say, before the game, and then really look to rip their head off come game time. It's going to be an interesting dynamic, and it was talked about during the week what he could provide Tua Tagovailoa in terms of preparation, kind of spreading his knowledge, what he's learned from Josh Allen and the Bills offense over the years. On the other side of things, Mike White, the Dolphins backup from last year, now the Bills' third-string quarterback, trying to spread that knowledge to Josh Allen and company in terms of the Dolphins' defense. So Jordan Poyer on the opposite side of this rivalry for the first time. You also have Saron Neal, a former Buffalo Bill, going to play a role on special teams, particularly in this game. So 2 familiar faces for Bills fans in this matchup, albeit on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Jordan Poyer can do against his former team. You know, beloved, right, by Bills Mafia, by players. Von Miller said he was his guy, golf buddy. Sean McDermott brought up the moment when Jordan Poyer drove down to Kansas City with the lung. I can't think of the first word.
The punctured lung.
Yeah, punctured lung. So he wasn't even able to fly, right? So he had to drive himself down there to play in the game. So he's just talking about, and I kind of forgot about that until McDermott brought it up in the presser yesterday, where he was just really, voiced his appreciation, and then obviously started talking about Hyde, because every time he talks about Poyer, he has to talk about Hyde, and that's how he always talks about it. I feel like it's over and over. He always says that every time he's asked about one or the other. But yeah, he means a lot. So, what Buffalo tried to accomplish the last 6-7 years, he was here since day one. He was an All-Pro player in 2021, and he just really excelled and was underappreciated before coming to Buffalo and made his name here in Buffalo. So it's going to be awesome. I think the NFL kind of set up the schedule because, keep the receipts. How are they talking about Jordan Poyer right this week? Then you got Gabe Davis next week. How are they going to talk about him? Then to a lesser extent, you have the Baltimore Ravens, Deontay Hardy. Maybe they'll ask about him, maybe not. But then you go right into that Week 5 matchup with Houston. So you got Poyer. They're going to talk, so we'll see how those comments go throughout the week with the media. I'm really intrigued to kind of see how each player talks about, the player, and then going into that Houston-Texans matchup with Stephon Diggs. So it's going to be a pretty fun ride here playing former Bills the next few weeks.
It's like the revenge tour for former Bills over the next several weeks. I didn't realize that, AJ. How many?
I didn't either.
You include Deontay Hardy with the Ravens. Big time revenge.
It's a reach.
Yeah, big time revenge game for Deontay Hardy, Bills legend, in his one season.
They might not win the division. He
did have that big kick return, so he did have that legendary play. He will not be forgotten for that. That is for sure. How about anything else we're missing in terms of the Dolphins side of things? Mike McDaniel signed to an extension along with Tua Tagovailoa. Tyreek Hill gets an extension. A lot of money being thrown around for these guys, and they have yet to win a playoff game, AJ. They haven't won a playoff game I think their last playoff win was in 2000. I'll have to look that up, but it's been over 20 years for this team winning a playoff game. So a lot to prove yet for this trio, but the Dolphins kind of putting their money where their mouth is in terms of Mike McDaniel, Tua, and Tyreek Hill, but they haven't been able to solve the mystery that is Josh Allen. They haven't been able to solve the Buffalo Bills, and they haven't been able to win in the playoffs. So as talented as this offense is, as high scoring as it can be, as exciting as it can be to watch, can they get it done when it truly matters?
Right. That's going to be the big question. And Tua talked about it. The narrative will be the narrative until they beat the Bills, right? That's going to be the narrative. They are the little brother to the Bills. And that's how the majority of the AFC East felt for years when Tom Brady was dominating. And you know what? He rocked the left glove too. Him and Peyton Manning, they would wear the glove sometimes. So maybe Allen does pull it out on Thursday night. But I think one more thing regarding what the Dolphins like to do on offense, and this slipped my mind, but now that we're 25 minutes into the show, and I'm kind of in Bills mode. The Dolphins did use a 77% motion rate, the fourth highest in the NFL last week. So they used a lot of motion pre-snap, and they also had a 23% play action rate, which is also fourth highest in the NFL. So the Bills are going to have to stay, locked in, especially like a Dorian Williams, right? A younger guy who really struggled in pass coverage last year. When they got this guy going this way and they're doing play action, and if they have success with Achane, which they've had a lot of success with Achane, especially last year against the Bills. He broke up a couple of long runs. I know Mostert's not there, but Achane, I'm assuming, I'm not going to say he's going to go, but I'm trending towards I think he's going to play, just in my opinion. The Bills are going to have to stop that too. So they confuse you with motion. They get you on your first read. They try and beat you over the middle with their speedsters and getting the balls in their playmakers' hands. So I think the Bills defense needs to stay disciplined and not be fooled by what, all the gimmicks kind of that Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins offense is kind of throwing their way.
And on the other side of things, I think the Bills need to perhaps increase their use of play action this week and really complement the running game. You saw the running game get off to an excellent start last week. James Cook averaging, I believe, over 6 yards per carry in that opening half, and then things kind of ran off a cliff in the second half. He finished under 4 yards per carry for the game, but the Bills' offensive line really impressed me in week one. Their ability to really get physical, and that's what you were looking from this unit, this season with the changes that they made, looking to get more kind of ground and pound style with David Edwards and Connor McGovern, and both of those players really impressing me in week one and allowing James Cook, like I said, to get off to that solid start. But the Bills only ran play action, I believe, 5 times all game, and I think if you really increase your usage of play action, maybe mix Ray Davis in a little bit more in the second half, you can really sustain that production in the running game. A lot of those runs in the second half came on first down, a little bit predictable from the Bills as the game wore on as well. So mix a little bit of play action there, continue to rely on James Cook. You might not see as much Josh Allen in the running game. I know it was a lot of scrambling last week. But they might have to rein him in a little bit with that injured hand until it heals. So maybe some more James Cook, some more play action, some more Ray Davis to allow the Bills to sustain that running game into the second half and especially into the fourth quarter with what's expected to be a very close game between these two teams.
And I'm curious about what the Bills do because they ran the ball out like you mentioned in week one against Arizona, and they had success early on, but it felt like late it became predictable, and then they really just couldn't put the game away. The offense, and that's been a problem I think over the course of Allen's career. He plays really well, and he's a finisher, and he in the big moments he does rise. But I feel like when they have the ability to put the knockout punch on the other team, they kind of struggle to. There was 2 possessions in that Cardinals game where they had 2 opportunities to take a 2-possession lead. And instead, the first resulted in, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was not obviously points. And then the second one was a field goal on that 3rd and 3 Allen keeper where McDermott felt he was just too far away to go for it. And if it was a 4th and 2 in the media after the game, he said he would have went for it, but they decided to kick, which a 6-point lead in football is one of the scariest when you're giving the ball back to an offense late. So the offense will need to finish in this one because I think that the Dolphins, if they get the ball back with 2 minutes left, right, and down 6 or down 3, I think there might be a different story to the end of the game. But the transition to the NFL, and I'm curious back to my original point, week one NFL passing touchdowns the past 5 years, it's only at 33, this week one compared to in the past over 60, over 50 on the past like 4 or 5 years. So there is a major decline in passing, and that comes with the 2 high safety looks and everyone trying to keep everything in front of you. And I think the running backs are becoming a little bit more valuable now, especially this year. I think they're going to become way more valuable just because of the shift of what offenses are trying to do. So I think the Bills will continue to try and run the ball quite a bit, but like you said, maybe not as much because I think they need to work in that play action game. They need to be able to keep the defense honest. You have a Dalton Kincaid that is probably waiting and really wants those targets and those yards. And I know it's not that big of a deal for him, but coming off a quiet week one, they probably really want to get that involved, right? Him involved in week 2 here. So I think this Bills offense needs to continue to change to what the NFL kind of trend is, which, kind of protect the ball. Don't turn over the ball. You only saw 1 from Allen last week, which really helped them out in that comeback. And if they do that, they're going to put themselves in position to win. basically every game if you can just take care of the ball, run the ball effectively, and like you said, mixing those play actions in those shot plays and be an efficient offense.
Kincaid certainly a slow week one, but the Cardinals defense was all over him from the first snap on. During the course of the game, I obviously you don't have access to snap counts. You're doing the best you can to kind of follow along with it. It seemed like the Bills may not have been using Kincaid as much as you thought entering the season, but after you watch the game back, the Cardinals defense just certainly made a point and made it one of their points of emphasis to take away Dalton Kincaid and throw multiple defenders at him. And that's certainly what led to his one reception for, I believe, 11 yards. So we'll see what the Dolphins do to try to take him away. The Bills receiving core, still plenty to prove from that group. You had to like what you saw from them in week one. 9 different receivers, I believe, getting involved, 10 different receivers targeted. Curtis Samuel, kind of a slow start as he works his way off the turf toe injury. Keon Coleman finishes as the team's leading receiver. But I think as the season goes, you're going to see Dalton Kincaid eventually take over that quote-unquote wide receiver one type role in this offense. But hey, if defenses are going to continue to take him away and allow Josh Allen to work the ball to his other 8-9 targets in the passing game to efficiency the way that he was able to in week one, I think the Bills would take it. They've talked that everybody eats mentality, and Dalton Kincaid certainly seems to be the team player mentality that would allow them to do that type of thing. So we'll see what Kincaid has to offer this week, but I think they're going to continue to take what defenses give them, and really their personnel sets them up well to be able to do that with success.
Yeah, I thought the Bills wide receiver room looked good, right? Matt Collins chipping in with a beautiful grab over the middle. Allen obviously has some confidence with him, trust him on a hot route. That was not the original call. Allen saw there was no safety in the middle of the field. They spread him out wide and kind of tapped on the helmet, and that was the rest of the story. Hollins had inside leverage, and the DB kind of fell for a nice little stem of a route from Matt Collins. So impressive for him. Didn't score one in 2023. So that was his first receiving touchdown since 2022. So Allen, it shows that he can continue to elevate those players, and he trusts Matt Collins, who, like you've seen throughout all of training camp, Alex, in the preseason, had a really good, training camp. So I'm excited to see with him. Keon Coleman shined a little bit more than I expected. I think there were some times after the catch where he could have been a little bit better, some shaky feet here and there, maybe went backwards a couple times, didn't go upfield quick enough. But overall, he showed that versatile ability to go up and get it. He had a nice drag out underneath and move the stick. So a great performance from him. Khalil Shakir, his contact balance was just astonishing. He could just bounce off defenders like nothing. And you're just continuing to see not only his speed, but his physicality, and his ability to just, take those quick screens and make the most out of them. And obviously with a lot of help from Deion Dawkins clearing them out, but Shakir was still special in that. And then last but not least, Marcos Valdes-Scantling and Curtis Samuel, 2 guys that didn't see much time in week one, but I think Samuel, they have plans for him. They paid him money. He's very versatile, so they're going to continue to maybe unravel his role throughout the year as it continues. So overall, excited with the Bills pass catchers and what they showed. Allen looks, very comfortable. He had trust. They were in rhythm, not a lot of miscommunications. And then the tight ends as well, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid. I thought Knox, they kind of fooled the Cardinals defense on that play for him to scamper up the field for 25 yards. So another piece that they can kind of add in there. So there's a lot of pieces, a lot of things that the defenses that are going up against the Bills will have to prepare for. And I think, that bodes well if the Bills can continue to hit and make the smart and right reads.
How about special teams? There were a few concerns this past week. Tyler Bass kicking the ball out of bounds. They give up the 96-yard return to DJ Dallas as well. So Bills are going to have to figure out this new kickoff as they go. And Matthew Smiley is going to continue to be under fire, and maybe his presence on the hot seat continues to get a little bit hotter as the season goes if the Bills are to give up any more big returns. There was another return in that game where kind of the Red Sea parted for the return man for Arizona, but they were able to close quickly and make the tackle on that 96-yard return. It was kind of a similar circumstance, but they weren't able to secure that tackle. There were 3 or 4 Bills special teams coverage men near the point of attack, but weren't able to bring Dallas down. So we'll see how things progress with this new kickoff. We'll see if Bass can become a little bit more consistent. You don't want him kicking the ball out of bounds. Certainly pleased with his field goal kicking, but some concerns with him obviously letting that one trickle out of bounds on the left side.
Yeah, the special teams unit. I'm not of the belief, I'm not of the group that's like, oh, just kick it out of the end zone every time now and let the team start at the 30. I think you've got to keep special teams units honest, mix it in here and there. But I will say, do not kick it on the field of play when you go up 11 points midway through the fourth quarter and allow that to happen, right? I mean, obviously badly executed. You can blame the head coach. You can blame the players. It was probably just all on all of them. It's on Matthew Smiley. It's on the players on the field. But I think you need to keep, these kick return groups honest, because you're not just you shouldn't just kick it out of bounds every single time or out of the end zone for instance, let them start at the 30. Mistakes can happen, right? Not only is the kicking unit that's kicking the ball off assimilating to this new kickoff style, this new rules that are going around, but also the team that's returning it. So I think mistakes can happen. You saw the Bills kick it off at the end of the first half, right? And in the miscommunication, they fielded it and they ended up at the 5-yard line. Now it didn't matter because they just kneeled it down the half. But I think mixing it up, just don't do it when you go up 11 in the fourth quarter and allow, a kickoff return, because that obviously change the game and change the whole dynamic of that touchdown drive. When you felt like the Bills had it and secured the win, it just, especially for my game day story purposes, it just kind of fuzzied things up a little bit.
Special teams, another thing to watch. Tyreek Hill got an opportunity at a punt return this past week. That's another way that he can impact the game, just with his outright speed. If you get him in space and allow him the room to return, that could certainly spell trouble for the Bills. So I think if you see Tyreek Hill back there, you do whatever you can, if you're Sam Martin, to get that ball near the sideline, perhaps place it right out of bounds to disallow Tyreek Hill from, like I said, impacting the game on special teams. What about the Bills coaching staff this past week? First game for this new Joe Brady offense, full fingerprints on the offense, and then Bobby Babich, his first opportunity as a defensive play caller. I asked him earlier this week if he kind of took the moment in and took a step back and reflected on what that moment meant to him. And he said, certainly, but it's not about him. It's about kind of putting his players in the right position to succeed. And did that against the Cardinals, particularly during the second half. Struggled a bit to contain Kyler Murray during the first two quarters. But I think as the game progressed, Babich settled in. And you also heard, I believe it was Von Miller, talk about Babich's message at halftime and what he can do for a team's mentality. That's also an invaluable element to his coaching style, able to pick up the spirits of his group at halftime after a lackluster performance in the first half and really turn in a positive effort down the stretch. So I think early on, good returns from both of these units. The Bills offense not on the field much during that first half. That last drive into the second half really turned it up. Josh Allen just putting the team on his back for touchdowns. But I think overall, these two coaches in their first kind of full season at the helm did well.
Yeah, Joe Brady, I think, again, a little more run happy than I'd like, but you're seeing, again, the NFL transition to this run heavy approach a bit. So I think as the year goes on, they're going to let Josh Allen cook. That's the ultimate goal. And Josh Allen does have the reins of this offense most, basically. I know that there's a play caller, but it's kind of Josh Allen's offense. They really trust him. And if Josh can effectively do his job, it'll make Joe Brady look really good. Just like, Brian Daboll, Josh Allen did his job really well. And now look at Brian Daboll. So there's definitely, if Josh Allen can do his job, Joe Brady's fine. And then defensively, Bobby Babich, I love the halftime adjustments. In the first half, they were getting eaten alive. They were doing a lot of quarterback spies, right? Dorian Williams was a QB spy on Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray was just absolutely destroying it, getting extra yards. Dorian Williams couldn't catch him. So I think when the Bills adjusted to the second half, brought a lot of that interior pressure, a lot of the blitzing, Kyler Murray really struggled in that second half when the Bills brought pressure. So I think the adjustment from Bobby Babich, although it was a bad start in the first half, I thought he adjusted well. The defense as a whole adjusted well and really gave the Bills an opportunity and secured that win for them late. So that's a great sign that the defense was able to pick up the pieces that the offense was not able to finish and really put it together late. So an impressive start for Babich, an impressive start for Brady, and I thought Sean McDermott was also, fine as a head coach. And again, it's
a little clock management, maybe some mishaps at moments in that game, but certainly nothing to really get heated about in terms of the head coaching from McDermott in that game. No opportunities at challenges, anything like that. So we didn't see the officiating liaison throw his hat into the ring think the only thing we forgot, AJ, was Brandon Codrington. His first return as a Bill was a good one. But other than that, anything else that we forgot throughout this episode that you'd like to look forward to? Entering tomorrow's game, Thursday in Miami. I'll be headed down tomorrow morning. I'll be there in the afternoon getting ready for Bills Dolphins.
No, not much. And yeah, Brandon Codrington looked good in that one return. So hopefully he can continue to rise to the occasion for the Bills kickoff team and continue his No, I'm not going to mess it up. Resurgence? It's not resurgence.
No, resurgence would.
It's not, but it's not resurgence.
Rise.
Right. Yeah, rise for the Bills special teams unit. So yeah, I think that's all. I mean, I don't know if we're giving our predictions now. Are we doing?
Oh yes. And I forgot to. I realized when we put the newspaper together, we missed that today. We'll have to get back on the train next week. We'll have to give you a retroactive prediction or something like that. But what I have for the Bills, and it's just survive in advance. They just have to find a way to win this game. It's not going to be about winning pretty this year. It's just going to be about simply winning. I have the Bills winning 30-27 over the Dolphins. Give me the Bills defense to limit Tua under 300 yards passing. Hill and Waddle under 150 combined yards receiving. Kincaid, I think, is going to get involved in this game. And then Tyler Bass is going to make the difference on a field goal, perhaps in the fourth quarter, to push the Bills to 2-0 on the season.
Yeah, I read your, we were reading each other's articles at one point today, and I got to the end and I read the last sentence about a Tyler Bass game winner, and I'm like, oh my, like that's definitely, if it comes down to that, Bills Mafia is going to be boiling at that moment in time. So I think the Bills do take this one as well. I'll give them a 31-27 win. I had them winning before. A Taron Johnson injury kind of changed my mind a little bit, maybe of how close the game would be. But I think the Bills and Josh Allen, until they can't dominate Miami, or until they don't dominate Miami, I'm not going to go against the Bills. So I'll pick the Bills here. I had them before the season in my original prediction. I'll stick with it. I'll give them a 31-27 victory. Josh Allen, big day. I think there's going to be someone on defense that we did not discuss, not a Greg Rousseau, not like a big name, not a Terrell Bernard, a guy under the radar that's going to make a big splash play in this one and really step up for this defense. So give me Bills 31-27.
All right, before we get out of here, we'll thank our sponsor once again, Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, that's going to do it. Everybody out there, be sure to like, subscribe, rate, whatever you have to do with the podcast to get the word out. It's been a great run for us, and we really can't thank everybody for tuning in enough, and all of our guests as well for helping spread the word over the past several months. And AJ, tomorrow, 8:15 is kickoff. We'll be live for a preview/pregame pod around, 6:45 after the inactives are released. So tune in for that. Also tune in thedailynewsonline.com for all of our coverage. We have my 5 takes, AJ's game preview, also my post-game 5 takeaways. AJ will have a post-game story as well, plus additional coverage to come following the game in a post-game pod as well, right here, right now. Live Buffalo Football Talk presented by Forefathers Organics. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.